Welcome to my video where I talk to you about annotating your books so that you can remember more of what you read. You can be a more interesting person in conversations because you've got so much cool information plugged into your brain holes that you want to spew out into the world. I don't know why I have started this video with an interpretive dance, but I have, and I'm not mad about it, and I'm here to share it with you. And if you're finding this video, then you know that there are a lot of videos on YouTube of people teaching others how to annotate their books. Now the thing is, when I was looking up these videos, I found that they were very, very particular and specific to that person's reading style and annotation style. And it can be a little bit difficult to apply those tips to you, to me, while you're just learning how to annotate in a very organized fashion. So I wanted to give a few generalized tips and tricks that I think you can apply to a lot of different types of reading and a lot of different types of books. And there's only 3 of them, so there's not a lot to remember. I think you guys can handle 3. You're smart people. You guys love to read. So we're gonna get right into it. So why do we annotate? Well, obviously it's because we want to actively read our text. We want to be critically engaged with the words that are on the page. It's like when we have a teacher in school that's just boring and dull and we hate going to their class because they just talk at you the entire time. We all love that teacher that's engaging with us and asking us questions and getting us involved and making us laugh and smile and have conversations and talk to us about what do we think about the lesson. And it's always in those classes that you tend to learn more. So that's what we're doing for ourselves when we are annotating and taking notes while we're reading, is we are being an actively engaged reader because that's how we remember things. So I have 3 tips for you, 1, 2, 3 tips for you that will help you to define your annotation style no matter what book it is that you're reading. The first tip that I have for you is to think about and decide, why are you annotating? For instance, when I picked up this book, Rivers in the Desert by Margaret Leslie Davis, I wanted to be able to talk about this book in an intelligent way with the person that recommended it to me. And it was a person that I wanted to impress, right? I wanted him to know that I really did read it and I took something from it, that I was going to be able to apply this information in a useful way to my life and my thinking about development. Because this book is about how Los Angeles became the city that it is because we were able to bring water to the city, and that was Robert, why do I always call him, it's William Mulholland. William and Robert are like almost the same name to me in my brain, and I don't know why. But they kind of are. Do you see what I mean though? Like anybody named William could also be named Robert. Anyways, off topic. So this is a very in-depth annotation style. You see there's all these different color tabs. The colors have reasons. We're gonna get into that next. I've got like stickies galore in here. It's a whole thing, right? Okay, so this is one annotation style. And the reason that I did it, like I said, is because I wanted to be able to talk about this book with a person. Another example I have for you is when I picked up Bleak House and I knew that I needed to have some help with understanding the very in-depth themes that Charles Dickens talks about and uses in his text, and that, you know, he has a lot of characters, there's a lot of stuff going on. I knew I'd need some mental help trying to remember and keep track of everything. You notice there's no tabs, and I didn't underline anything because this is a really cute copy and I wanted to keep it nice and pristine. And so I used a journal, or I am using a journal because I'm only halfway through it. So I'm using a journal to keep notes of this book. So, you know, different styles for different reasons. That's why that's the most important thing to start with, is why are you annotating? What are you trying to get out of this exercise of annotating the text? The second tip that I have for you is to define your strategy from the beginning. And what I mean by that is, like I said, when I went into Rivers in the Desert, this one, it was really important that I remembered all of the information in here. So I decided to color code. You can see right here, I decided to color code the different topics that I was looking for. So the ones that I chose for this book is politics, strategies that were employed by private companies, syndicates, anything that felt like foreshadowing, like, you know, this event that was happening, the way that the author wrote it, I felt like it was going to lead to something bigger. And then finally, anything as it relates to macroeconomics, you know, large scale economics, and how building this aqueduct related to that. So those were the topics that I chose. Now, what I do want to say is that I did not know exactly what the topics were going to be before I started reading the book. And I think that can be a really confusing thing when you see other people that have finished some long book and they have all of these tabs here. It's like, well, how do you even know what to choose? I would say read a couple of chapters. That's what I did with this one. Read a couple of chapters, see what's really popping out at you and what you think you're gonna be able to see more of throughout the book and what you wanna kind of keep track of. If you're reading a fiction book, then you can use topics like, this is something I'm highlighting for character development, this is a literary device, this is foreshadowing, etc., whichever type of generalized topics or subjects that you could possibly be annotating for. If you're reading a nonfiction book like this, like I said, I have those 4 topics that I picked out. The other thing that I did in this book, of course, I underlined certain things in pencil so I can always go back and erase it if I want to give the book to somebody and I don't want them to be inside of my brain and knowing like what I don't know. But then I also kind of like reading other books that are underlined. Anyways, the thing that really, really helped me when I was reading this book is that at the end of every chapter, I wrote a little summary of what happened in that chapter, and this helped me more than anything. And I think you can use this no matter how involved you want to get in your annotation style, because annotating and note-taking can obviously take up a lot of time while you're reading. If you're sitting in bed and you're just wanting to enjoy a book as you go to sleep, it's gonna be very time-consuming to sit down and do this. So if you do nothing else, but you just need help remembering what the heck is going on, this is probably the biggest tip that I can give you, which is just write a summary of what happened at the end of every chapter. It just kind of organizes it in your thoughts and makes sure that anything that you might have missed or anything important that might have happened that you didn't really take stock of when it happened, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta keep track of that. And then when it comes up in the next chapter or in the following chapters ahead, then it's there. It's right there in your brain, and you can always go back and you're like, oh, if you put a bookmark right there because you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you start reading again, then you can go back and you can remember exactly where you're at in the storyline, in the plot line. Now, with Bleak House, it's a much less involved strategy that I have. You can see I don't even have any tabs in here at all. And so when I decided to keep a notebook, I wanted to enjoy the book, but I also wanted to know, you know, what the general themes are that he was talking about. I wanted to be in conversation with the text. So anytime something happens where I'm like, oh, does that mean that so-and-so is gonna be related to so-and-so? Or I'll make predictions about what I think is gonna happen in the future and then see if those predictions come true. And just that thought, even if it's not totally organized, I mean, I will keep track of like certain quotes that come up where I'm like, oh, that's a good quote, and I'll write it out word for word as opposed to just highlighting or underlining it. Again, it can be time consuming, but because I'm not doing that with a lot of the text, I'm really just doing it with the text that stands out to me the most, just because, you know, I want to enjoy the book and I want to kind of get through it, and it's like 800 something pages, so it's going to take a lot of time for me to do that. I mainly just focus on little things like Snagsy brought Joe to Tulkinghorn, showed him the veiled figure. He saw this figure where, and you know, any questions that I have while I'm reading, I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot what happened, and then I write down my question, and I either go back in the text to try to find the answer to it, or I see if the answer is gonna come up a little bit later. If it doesn't, now I still know what my question is. I don't get lost in the story. It kind of just helps me keep track of everything, especially because, you know, an author like Dickens, it can be a little bit confusing for people like you and me to read it because we don't live in the 1800s. We live in the today world where people don't write like this anymore. So it can be difficult to keep up with everything. And the last tip that I have, which I think is the most important tip, is to have fun. Do not let annotating get in the way of your reading experience. It should be enhancing your reading experience. I think that when I decided that I was going to start annotating my text, there's some books that I just want to be able to grab it and lay down in bed and read it and relax and just kind of escape and not really have to have a conversation about it, not really have to remember everything that happened. Maybe I just want to feel the experience of the reading, and that's okay too. I saw some videos where it says like, you should annotate every book, even the ones that you read for fun. I mean, everything I read is for fun. None of these books that you see behind me are there because I had to get them. They're all for fun, and I absolutely annotate a lot of them that I read. But sometimes you just want to relax, so you don't have to annotate every single book. If it feels like a chore, don't do it. If you're doing it and it feels like it's adding to the experience, that's what it's meant for. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are my 3 tips to you. Decide why you're annotating, define your annotation strategy from the beginning, and have fun with your reading. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos from me, you want to see me talk about the books that I am reading and enjoying, then please like this video, hit the subscribe button so you can see more videos coming out and you can help other people find these videos as well. We can grow our book club together. This is a team effort. You can also follow me on my other social medias. I've got an Instagram, I've got a Twitter. I love when you guys message me on there and I get to interact with you. That's why I'm doing this. I'm a social butterfly, you guys. I know some people are like, I do videos because I'm an introvert in real life and I'm, you know, an extrovert on camera. I'm always an extrovert. I just love talking to people. So let's talk about stuff. Let's talk about books, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.